You mentioned, Stephen, that gold is sort of beyond the manipulation. But if we look at the price of paper gold, and I want you to explain the difference between the paper market and the physical market, it's about $1,222 last time I checked.
Yep.
Despite the fact that we have a world in turmoil. We go back to, earlier last year when the Crimean situation was about to explode. Echoes of World War I. We had rampaging jihadists lopping off heads throughout the Middle East. We had Ebola, and yet, we're generally, when geopolitics sort of erupts, we see a spike in the price of gold. Gold has remained flat for the last 5 years, despite all of this turmoil. To me, that's manipulation.
Total manipulation. Now, remember, in U.S. dollars, that's the case because the price of gold in the different countries, whether it's China or India, is much higher than it is in the United States. Now, let's talk about exchange-traded funds. ETF or paper gold trades, but there is no gold backing up, as you just said. Richard, there's so many more, hundreds and even thousands more times gold trades. Same thing with silver. So what has been a neat deal for the federal government and the big banks is that they can sell gold short that they do not own and make up the difference with Fed printed dollars. Well, the Shanghai gold market is not going to allow naked shorts. A naked short, you don't have what you're selling. The point is, it's like a cattleman trying to sell 1,000 head of cattle into the futures market. He doesn't have it. Everybody else who has the cows sees the price of their cows going down, and the point being is then he just makes the difference up with cash that he prints. Well,
so for every 1 ounce of actual physical gold that's extant, there may be 100 people running around with a piece of paper saying, "I own that piece, that 1 ounce."
Yeah, and it's more than like 1,000. Okay. So the point is just like in the, let's say the silver market, at the COMEX, where if they have 300 million ounces of silver, there can be multiple billion ounces on paper. So why are they manipulating the price of gold? Because by keeping the price of gold down, they keep the people, in the market. And the Dow Jones is like the magician's hand. The Dow Jones is 90% of the trading, actually I think it's 95% of trading now, is HFT, high-frequency trading, computer algorithms. The average guy cannot click his screen fast enough. And when you've got proprietary trading programs that see both sides of the trade, you can't play against the house, especially if they're stacking against you. The only way to come out is to get out of that game and go into an honest game. Can I be blunt? Gold and silver, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, that's honest money. Paper money is basically liar's paper. Yet when the rest of the world says, you guys are a bunch of liars, we won't take your paper, well, that's a war scenario. And that's why we're building up to World War III. You look at how the intensity, since we started in Ukraine, and you know the whole story about that, that was a total provocation. I mean, come on, you've got President Putin telling American citizens, don't give up your guns. You've got, and this is a critical point, because that's the last thing we've got standing against, us and tyranny. Well, now you've got a government that's basically vilifying and calling veterans, gun owners, homeschoolers, Christians, constitutionalists, anybody that quotes the Declaration of Independence as a terrorist, and the list goes on. And I'll make it easy for everybody. If you are just an American citizen and you don't work for the company's store, you're a terrorist. Some way, some form, they've got you covered. So now let's get back to gold. Okay, gold has basically been the thing that the middle class was able to, how should I say this, to grow on. The middle class in America is dead. All you have to do, and you've seen it too, Richard, haven't you seen just how little savings there is in America now?
Well, I follow Williams at Shadow Stats, and I see that the household income has not budged since 1970. That's 45 years ago. That tells the whole story as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but see, you know what that means. The problem is articulating it. Here's what I think it boils down to, and being at this for 3 decades, most people don't want to take personal responsibility or accountability for their decisions, especially when it comes to investments, okay? And the point being is, who would have ever thought that people, and I literally know people, that would put $1 million into the bank and then pay the bank to take, a percentage of their money, and if that bank were to go under, they'd lose their $1 million. I mean, negative interest rates are real. We just ran through the situation that happened in Iceland. We ran through the situation that, touched on it briefly, Cyprus. Those people did not expect that. And now we see, what do we see in Venezuela, where their currency was also inflating at horrific rates? We see people standing in line to get the basics of food and detergent. And we see lines that go for miles to a single, supermarket. So the point being is this, that because of an inflated currency, and since you read shadow stats, in the United States they call them leading economic indicators. I call them lying economic indicators, because they never consider the most important thing that the households are faced with. And food is one of the most important things. Hey, we all got to eat or we die. And yet they never put it in there. Same thing with fuel. And now we've got a situation where, just to put it into perspective, by 2022, China's middle class will be 630 million people, while the United States middle class is toast. Most people would be, I would say this, astonished and flabbergasted if they knew that our national parks, our national treasures, our top secret defense, trillion-dollar development programs were all given over to the Chinese as collateral, because the Chinese would smile and buy our debt and then take that debt and turn around and buy our stuff. They're very, very smart. They've had 26 dynasties since 2000 BC to acquire gold. And again, people can argue, they can get emotional about it, but they have nothing in the bank if they're holding paper, except basically what? They have electrons on a screen, and they have a paper printout possibly, but when it crashes, what do they have? And again, I go back to the statement, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. The Indians from India know point blank that they wear their wealth. They know what it's like to live with nothing, and as their middle class increases, they want tangible. The same thing with the Chinese. So here you've got, the United States with 1% of our population, let's say that's 3 million people invest in the metals, against pretty close to probably 2.6 billion people, and every single person in that 2.6 billion equation is being told by their government to buy the metals. It causes countries to boom. Its absence causes countries to fall.